What do the Celtics do with Jaylen Brown?
I would say you can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle, but you can still use it to brush your teeth. I'm not sorry that we didn't do this trade.
Did Celtics get fleeced? Did Brad Stevens get fleeced? There was none of that, like, Giannis is something different from the rest of the league.
His value is less than people think.
Can you put the toothpaste back in the tube? That's the question with the Boston Celtics right now. After the Giannis trade does not go through, what do the Celtics do with Jaylen Brown? How do they repair this relationship if they're going to at all? Are they going to find a trade? What happens? Meanwhile, the Celtics just drafted two players that, yes, they're late draft picks, and who knows if they're going to make any sort of contribution to the team. You know, we can go over this stuff on the back half of the show. But I think we have to start with what really happened over the last couple of days, whether the Celtics were really in it for Jaylen Brown, and what happens next.
It is a good question. I would say you can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle, but you can still use it to brush your teeth. It doesn't spoil. So how do you make lemonade out of some lemon toothpaste might be the question. I'm not going to lie. I might be in the minority. I'm not sorry that we didn't do this trade. I'm not a believer in Giannis. The amount the Heat gave up, but that doesn't mean we don't have a little bit of a challenge here. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. You can see it here on the screen.
Yeah.
The Heat give up a ton.
But
none of that stuff is really, there's no specific player in that's even a top All-NBA candidate, right? Tyler Hero is probably the best out of any of those guys. We know the flaws with Tyler Hero. We know the flaws with all of these offensive-only guards. I don't know if you saw the Trae Young contract with the Wizards, $213 million. I think that's easily the worst contract in the NBA right now. Straight up, the most untradeable contract you're ever going to find.
Well,
Austin Reeves signs a contract with the Lakers. That's a better contract because at least I think Austin Reeves is actually a better player than Trae Young and fits into a role. He's not the number one option like Trae Young is going to be. That being said, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't in on Giannis either, right? I didn't think that Giannis was the option to go. I'm now more interested in the fact that if the Celtics really did go all in for Giannis, and who knows whether they did or not, I'm in the thinking that Shams doesn't have a good source in the Celtics organization, and so all this stuff that he's reporting is just to, he's not like they have a show to do each day, right? So they gotta get something out, and I wonder if Shams doesn't have enough information or enough reliable sources in the Celtics organization, whatever. But if they really were going all in for Giannis, did the Celtics get fleeced? Did Brad Stevens get fleeced with the Miami Heat being the winners out of this? And I know there's reporting saying that, the Celtics didn't want to give it or, give in and give up like an Ugo Gonzalez or a Barrow Sharman alongside. First of all, I don't know why they're, sort of regarding these two players so highly.
Yeah.
But even if they are, like, did the Celtics not actually want to do that? If they weren't willing to give up one of those picks, then maybe they weren't really in it for a Giannis trade, and they were just trying to drive up prices on both ends.
Yeah. We'll never actually know. Brad, please come to the show. We'd love to have you on and spill all your inside secrets, please. But I would say a couple things. One, I think Pat Riley and Brad Stevens are as good talent evaluators as any GM in the league, right? I think they know what talent looks like. They know who to hire and who to buy and who to sell. So I think that's one thing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know maybe that's like from a roster perspective. We can get to the draft maybe another day or maybe later in the show, but like I don't know if they're like an OKC team, whereas when OKC trades down to get a guy or trades up to a team, every team in the league is like, did we just make a mistake or what's OKC up to right here? Like, I don't know if they're on that level. Whereas,
I
like,
think I think we need to reference our good friend of the show, patron of the show, John Henry, because I actually think that Brad Stevens wasn't willing to sign Giannis to a whatever max contract in a year. I don't think they wanted
Bill
to put 5 years.
Bill Chisholm wasn't.
Sure. But I don't think Brad Stevens was in on it either, right? I don't
Sure.
think they wanted to sign that deal because the injury history of Giannis. And I think they didn't want to have a $70 million a year, 3, 4, 5 year contract hanging over him with Tatum coming up. And I think they just decided that while they might have been willing to part with Brown and the assets for a 1 year rental, it's not worth it. And if they weren't willing to sign him, then they shouldn't have done the trade. And that's my take is they would have signed him for 2 or 3 years, right? Then you got a window and, I think you got to, but when you tie up that much of the salary cap in 2 players, you can't do much. And I just don't think they're willing to do it.
So here's the thing. Jaylen Brown's eligible for a contract extension of upwards of $70 million a year in a couple of years. Now this is farther down the line.
You got 3 more years of Brown though.
But
you got 3 more years.
We're in a league where I don't think there'll be many. I think free agency is a thing of the past. Like, especially for the star player. Like, nobody's going to be going to free agency anymore. You're going to sign those contracts ahead of time, lock in your money for your career. So, is it going to get to a point in 3 years now? Like, if the Celtics can find a way to repair this somewhat damaged relationship, who knows what's going on there, right? Brad Stevens in his press conference last night after the draft.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean he denied any problems between the two.
We're all in on JB, whatever.
But he said that, but then he also didn't go in and say, Giannis is a player that anybody in the league would do this for. We're always going to listen to calls, but that's the only guy we're going to do it for, right? There was none of that like Giannis is something different from the rest of the league. There was none of that. Like, he didn't like deny that Jaylen Brown could still be traded today or in the future.
I think they're going to move him out. I think though.
Well, I think they have to now, right?
But
they
here's
have
the thing.
to.
I think his value is less than people think because there wasn't. They didn't find a third party team to take him or what. Like,
I will confirm, right?
Your sources, Shams Lieberman, go.
Yeah. The Celtics hold him to they think really fondly of him, right? As fans, we also think fondly of him for the most part, right? There are moments, whatever, right? You look at the analytics, the numbers, he is not a
number 1
all NBA top, whatever, number 1 franchise leader like how the Celtics are, right? People are saying, and I don't know if I fully agree with this. I think he was a little bit better this year than in previous years. But a lot of people are saying that he wasn't any better, any different than previous years. We just got more of it, right? You still had the turnover stuff. You still had he was still the same guy. You just got more of it.
I don't have that. May be. I don't have those stats. It doesn't feel that way to me. But again, feeling isn't always the best way to think about it. Sometimes analytics are better.
The reason why he wasn't first team All NBA is because you look at his on-off numbers. Yeah. He wasn't. Yeah. Now,
but let me ask you this: you talked about the Trae Young contract. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have Jaylen Brown than Trae Young.
100%.
And those dollars are the same right now for 3 years, right? So
I don't know. See, I don't know why the Washington Wizards did that, but they don't. They don't really have
but if you
have a choice,
again,
right?
Let's say that those are the contracts that are signed. Maybe it's a little inflated, but you got to believe that if you got 3 years left to Jaylen Brown at the same money as a Trae Young's getting, you should be able to.
Yes, but the Washington Wizards don't have like the Jason Tatum on as well, right? They don't have.
Well, they have Anthony Davis. That's a big contract. What's he making?
Yeah, I don't know the details on that. You're right, but he also might get traded.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're all in on. He's making $58 million a year. going to 63. Like
Right.
that's
Well, I
about
mean,
the most you can make.
yeah.
So I think they like that pairing. They think that pairing is their answer to a Tatum and Giannis
I mean,
theoretically.
yeah, but Tatum's, at 313 for 5 years. So that's, a little bit more.
62,
Yeah.
63.
But also, then you have Derek White at 35 mil. And let's take this all aside. They have AJ DeBanza for cheap, and he's going to be a Cooper Flag like player. Like, I don't know if he'll be up to that, but he's
He'll be
going
a
to
great
be
player though. He's gonna be
exactly,
he's gonna be a difference maker.
exactly. So,
Although you
like,
never know, Ben Simmons. You never know.
we'll,
Listen.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying that,
that's
but you
true. That's
never
true.
know.
I think he was the safest pick in the draft, right? There are guys that maybe have a higher upside, but they had question marks. Like he's a for sure going to change your franchise anyway you
He's
put it.
for sure going to be a great
Yeah.
NBA player. Is he going to ever be elite? I don't know, but he's going to be a great NBA player,
Mm.
no doubt. So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, you're right. They might value JB too highly, and I don't think. I think the injury history is what undid it. I think they would have done it if Giannis didn't have the injury history.
Yeah, you think they would have given into an Ugo Gonzalez or someone?
I think maybe
Yeah,
because I actually think if you have a Tatum, a healthy Giannis, and a supporting cast of White and Pritchard, you're going to probably have to give up like a Hauser, a Hugo, and a JB or something like that in that deal, right? You're going to have to give up, one star and two great players, two role players like that. But I think you're a pretty big threat in the East with a team like that if you're healthy. And I just don't think they like the injury. He's 31. You look at the curve, it goes down from 31. It does not go up with
yeah.
a few exceptions.
And I actually think because you look at what the Miami Heat are now with Bam Adebayo with Giannis, I actually don't think they're better than the Celtics. I don't think they're better than the Knicks. I don't think they're better than right. They'll be a great defensive team. They give up all their shooting whatsoever. They are, and they might make trades and whatever this offseason
Yeah.
more, right, to build it. But right now, people don't think that this is a championship team either way.
Well,
Right? Like
people didn't think the Knicks were a championship team either. So
that's
we'll
true.
see.
I mean,
We'll see.
listen, from an NBA storyline, right? Everybody wanted him to go to this is so weird, right? Everybody hates on these right? It feels like everybody hates on the Celtics or the Lakers, depending on where you are, right? In the US, right? You don't want
Sure.
these these massive organizations to always be winning. It was the same way with the Patriots and whatever, right? You never liked Tom Brady and the Patriots if you were
Right.
a fan of the other team.
Right.
But everybody seemed to be somewhat cheering for a Giannis to the Celtics. Like just from a storylines perspective, it
Yeah.
makes a better watch for the league, I guess, right? If you just want stuff to cover than him going to Miami.
Look, the
But you're a
Celtics
fan
have
of some team, like all these guys in New York. Like, why does Stephen A. want Giannis going to Boston? That's a terrible decision for his whole life being
because at the end of the day, he knows that's good for basketball, good for him.
because he knows it'll be another 50 years, so may as well get something
No.
while we're waiting.
Look, the short answer of it is Stevens had the assets and the picks to do this deal, and he chose not to. So why? It's either about health or it's about money because they don't think they're going to sign him in the long term, or they think they can get a better deal for something else somewhere else.
Or
That's
did
it.
Giannis? Do we know if Giannis just in the end said, "Put me in Miami"? We don't know.
Could I mean
Right?
he might have
Like
said
at that point, you're like, there's nothing Stevens can do, right? If he says I'm going to Miami, he's
sure.
going to Miami, right?
I mean,
I don't
he-
think that happened because I actually think
I don't think
Giannis
so.
wanted to be in. I think
I think
Giannis
he
wanted
wants
to be in
win,
Boston.
and he has a lot better chance of winning in Boston than in Miami. In the near
I
term.
agree.
So, but you know
Like-
what? Maybe he wants to live in Miami. Maybe he wants lower taxes. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Miami was willing to take all his brothers and put them on the roster, and Brad wasn't. And he's like, dude, I'm watching out for my brothers. You got to give them league minimum contracts.
That's
Or
true.
like, I'm not going. Like, that's fine. You take care of your own. I don't have a problem with that. And maybe Stevens was like, dude, I'm not going to kick Ron Harper Jr. off the roster to put your brothers on or something, right? Like, we're not going to do
That's
that.
fair, right? So the Jaylen Brown stuff, then, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this quote they had on his Twitch stream the other day, where basically he just said that, to all the people that doubted me, you're turning me into a monster. And I don't know if this means from a Celtics organization, like he's gonna be a nightmare in the clubhouse type of thing, or this is to the rest of the league. I have no idea the
I don't think.
context here, but like
I think you got to give Jaylen Brown credit. Jaylen Brown, the player, has always been up and up, elite. You know, I don't think he's a guy who's messing in the locker room. Off the court, he's got comments, he's got tweets, he's got podcasts, and he's, stirring a little bit of trouble. But on the court in the locker room, I don't think he's got that reputation. So I don't think we know, nor does he want us to know what he's really thinking. Part of the game is this cat and mouse cryptic stuff with these guys, right? And he's not the only one, right? There's a lot of the major. So, when he's good and ready, he'll open his mouth and tell you what he thinks. He's not too good at keeping it quiet when he's like, So
I feel like he's done that all off season. Like I feel like now there's been some rumors about who you traded for. Like people thought that maybe, and I was sort of on board with this, of like some of the younger picks and up and coming stars that like a New Orleans Pelicans have in a Trey Murphy, guys like that, right? Where you could get a couple picks, but then also a up and coming star that can be a number 2 option in the future, or even the next year or two, can be that right hand man to a Jason Tatum. And I've always been on board in the fact that I think Jason Tatum plays better against a double team than a single team. Like, and that's understandable, right? But like having 2 guys on the floor, like both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it's actually harder for them because Jason Tatum's not that freaky athletic guy that can get around defenders, especially coming off of the Achilles injury. He would benefit from teams saying, okay, Jaylen Brown's not on the floor, so I can double. And it's actually a mistake for these teams to double because Jason Tatum's passing is so good and his ability to find teammates that he can pick defenses apart like that. Whereas when teams don't double, Jason Tatum has to go one-on-one, and I actually think that's worse. Like, it's sort of counterintuitive there, but like.
Well, it's interesting. The common consensus, and I actually agree with this, is that of the two, Tatum is the better player. Tatum is the guy you want to take the last shot by and large. But he's not Jalen Brunson. He is not Kobe Bryant. He is not he does not finish at the level of the elite NBA guys, right? He feels a little.
Or well, I mean, I think maybe the little difference is, right, he's not a point guard necessarily, right?
No,
I don't know if that.
I think it's more like he's a good closer. He's not he's not an elite closer of games. Like in your heart of hearts,
how much of that is?
Hang on, in your heart of hearts, when they're down by 1 and there's 2 seconds on the clock ticking away, and he takes that step back jumper, you close your eyes, and your heart beats a little harder than it should. It does. And that I think is still an amazing player, all NBA, but like, so
well.
What are you going to do?
I mean, like you saw with the San Antonio Spurs, they didn't have a closer either, right? And that, I mean,
and they didn't close. They didn't win.
So, like, see, I don't know if you necessarily need, like, I think you have to find a way to get away from the closer by committee, right? Right? It just doesn't work because
you need a 1A.
You need a 1A that you go to. And that was the problem with the Celtics, I think. They just tried to feed too many guys in the last minute of the game, whereas if you could get one guy just to take the shots and you live or die by it.
You need one. You need your guy. It's like, going to this guy to take a shot.
Now, even if it's Jason Tatum, right? And Jason Tatum, we just talked about it, right? As you mentioned, you close your eyes, right? We don't necessarily love every shot he takes. Yeah. I still rather him taking every shot in the last minute of the game than a combination of White, Ugo Gonzalez, Brown, Keita, whoever it is. Like, I'd still rather live and die by his.
I'm not sure I wouldn't rather have a White or a Pritchard taking the last shot. I don't know.
What? I mean, who knows? White might be on the block as well, trade block.
Yeah.
I mean.
But listen, Brad Stevens has cojones of steel. He is willing to make hard decisions and ship your favorite player out. And I think the only guy who's untouchable is Tatum, and he's got to build. He's got to build around him. I
So
think we got good supporting players and young players, but like
yeah, I think at this point, I think Brown's gonna be out by the start of next season. I
I
just
think
think
so.
he
I
has to
think
be.
that's right. I think so.
I
The
don't know who. People have mentioned like a Evan Mobley from the Cavs. Now, nobody's saying that these two guys are the same level, but Evan Mobley fills a need that you badly need right now in that center position. He's younger. He had a down year shooting threes, but theoretically he's on the up with the threes. Guys mentioned right, and this would be you'd get picks and stuff with that as well, right? It wouldn't be a one for one necessarily, although the Cavs are pretty restricted by the cap right now. But there's like the problem is right. There's a lot of you can get picks and prospects and whatever. I think teams would because lots of teams have called for Jaylen Brown, so I think there are deals that can be made. We're looking for guys that you can get back that you can contend this year. We don't want a full rebuild. Getting the young draft picks or draft picks and a young player that is a project doesn't work for where this team is right now, right? Trading Jaylen Brown for anything short of like a Dylan Harper at the least doesn't work, doesn't help this team right now. And so I'm worried about, is it going to get to a point where the Celtics have no choice but to trade Brown because of how the relationship's going and that market goes way down because teams know you have to get rid of him.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the other interesting things, and you've commented about this on our off-air show and some other on here as well, is with the new lottery system, the pick is way less reliable.
Oh yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get. So you look at that Heat trade, and you could probably argue that
Well,
those Heat
that's
picks, they might be the 15th or 18th pick, even though they
right.
stink in those
Right.
years. Because
And
you're 5 years out.
I think that was one of the deal breakers for this trade, actually, in
Yeah.
the fact that they got a 13th overall pick this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they knew exactly what they were getting for this last year, right? Whereas the Celtics have a 27th pick, which doesn't help them.
No.
And they have no idea what's going to be, it's going to be going forward.
And because of the new sort of scrambling of the lottery, I think, when you get even an unrestricted first round pick or something, like it's a lottery ticket way more than it used to be.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, there were in the two draft days today, right? There were almost no, actually, I don't think there were any picks where like players and stuff were being swapped for picks and stuff like that. It was all swapping up or down in the draft, right? It was, there were no big player trades during the draft like we've seen in the past, right? It was all about, maybe a move here or there to move up for a player, move down for a player, depending on who you like and whatever. But there was nothing big stuff that we've seen in the past because I just think teams are freaking out about, I have no idea what this pick is going to be. It could be, you could finish last and it could be the 18th pick in the draft.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah. Like
probably not 18th, but like there's a big difference
like 12
between
or
a
something.
top 5 pick and a 12 pick or 13 pick.
Right, but also the fact that you could finish 10th, you have better odds if you finish 10th worst than if you finish worst.
Right.
You just do like, and that's Brad Stevens going full in on canceling the tanking and whatever, and it's gonna work because there's no team is going to want to lose games in the end. Ultimately, I think this is going to be something that's not going to last because I just don't think you can have a 10th worst team getting such a better odds as the worst team. Like that's just not good for parity in the NBA. That being said, the salary cap, you have 8 different champions in 8 different years. There hasn't been a team that's made it back to the finals in 8 years. Yeah. So it's working. The stuff that Brad Stevens is,
and it's working. You got the Knicks winning, you got the Celtics winning, you got the Thunder winning, you got Denver winning, you got Milwaukee.
You got a mix of small markets and big markets because it's one of those caps where it's not like baseball where teams can't spend up to it or choose not to. I mean, obviously there's no cap and that's coming in the future. There's whatever, but the thing is with basketball is right. Every team can spend up to the cap and it's low enough where like you have no choice but to spend to the cap. So every team is on that cap line. Maybe they're under it, maybe they're over it, and it fluctuates different years depending on whether you're going in for a championship or not. But there is not a big difference in spending in the NBA compared to
Not
like
huge.
the MLB and whatever,
Right. You
because
don't have a team with a $40 million payroll and a $400 million payroll.
the way NBA players cost. I mean, we saw the Trae Young contract. Guards cost $40 million a year, whether they're a good guard or not. Right? Look at Tyler Hero, Trae Young. Not Luka Don, Austin Reeves. Right? Three guys that are maybe not perfectly in level, but they're roughly around the same level of contract. They're all making 40 plus million a year. None of them are worth 40 million a year, in my opinion, but that's just how it is right now.
Well, I'm thinking
But
that's a good career move for us.
yeah,
Guards in the NBA.
exactly. Yeah.
Even
but,
second, we don't have to be
yeah.
first.
But yeah, I'll wrap it up with you here. I'm going to continue on for like 5 more minutes. We're going to go over the 2 draft picks from today. But yeah, thanks for joining me on.
Yeah, we got a lot more to continue.
A wild week, and I mean, we'll touch base again when all this Jaylen Brown stuff falls out, which I think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be this week, but it definitely can be sometime over the summer. We'll continue on here, and the Celtics, they draft. Let me just pull it up. Obviously, in the first round, they draft Chris. How do you even pronounce his last name? Chris Cenac Jr. Yes, I think he's, a project for the Celtics for sure. And we talked a little bit about this the other day, but he's definitely a guy that, you're going to put in the G League to start. He was great coming out of high school. He was ranked one of the top prospects in ESPN's top 100, whatever that they do each year. Right? So he was a great prospect. He struggled at Houston. I think the coach really pushed him hard, and he definitely had a rough year at Houston. That being said, he's a great guy that you can, for the Celtics at least, at pick 27, I think it's much better to go for the high ceiling, risk rather than the high floor option, because right at pick 27, you're probably not getting any sort of all NBA player. You're looking for a role player at best and a project guy that you can work to develop, and he'll come into the league, hopefully, if everything goes well in the next, 2-3 years time, right? But he's a center, right, which the Celtics badly need right now, or at least a tall forward, right? I just think that you'd rather go for this option, right? He's been compared to Anthony Davis, right? Maybe not the high level on that side, but definitely the play style at least is very similar to an Anthony Davis, right? Which you could use tremendously right now. So I think he's a great guy at pick 27. Go for the high ceiling risk, right? Even though he's an unfinished product and probably he's not going to make the team. Although who knows, because right, we saw Hugo Gonzalez make the team this year. Amari Williams played a couple minutes after nobody thought that they would make the team. And the Celtics actually have been pretty good at developing guys. You look at Peyton Pritchard or Sam Hauser, you name it, right? The Celtics have been pretty good in the last many seasons of developing guys. And I do think that he can develop into a playable center, maybe even your starting center in the next couple of years. Who knows? That being said, the second round is a little bit different than the first round, because the second round doesn't work in the way you'd expect, right? You can't just pick a guy and put him on your team. There are definitely players in the second round that you could draft if you wanted to that are better. But normally what happens is you draft a guy that either is willing to sign a 2-way deal, right? So he's not on your roster necessarily because the Celtics don't have a space on their roster, right? Or a guy that, is, willing to take a cheap minimum rookie contract, play in the G League, right? Guys in the second round it's not necessarily a, you draft the best player available like it is in the first round most of the time, right? Because those guys are guys that you're going to be on the roster most likely, right? They're going to get a NBA contract. That's not the case for the second round, right? There are probably better players that the Celtics couldn't draft because those guys, wanted an NBA contract. They wanted a secure contract, and their agents were pushing for that. And the Celtics said, no, if you want to come play for the Celtics, you have to take this two-way deal, right, and sign for this much or whatever. And so the second round doesn't work the same way. And I'm pulling up, what. Let me see how much they're expect. I don't even know if it'll be out there. How much he'd sign for the guy that they picked second round. Let's see, right? They picked second round, right? It is Dylan Mitchell, I think is right from St. John's, right? He's a forward, right? So, two guys, right, with the Cenac Jr. in the first round, and now Mitchell, right? Two guys that are that bigger wing player, which you cannot get enough of in the league. You have to have wing type players, and I think these are two guys that I think Chris Cenac Jr. will make an NBA, will make the Celtics roster at some point in his career. Who knows with Dylan Mitchell? He is definitely a flyer that is very raw. He has no offensive game whatsoever. You're looking for him more to be a defensive stopper, very similar to what, if we remember a couple years ago, like a Jaden Springer almost, like someone that can be a lockdown defender. Maybe you can get an Amen Thompson, but I don't think his offensive game is, close to, what Amen Thompson or Asar Thompson's offensive game is, right? I don't think he can make a jumper at all. He shot like 42% from the free throw line, and that is something that unfortunately isn't really teachable. Right? You can't really, what you shoot from the free throw line is usually what you shoot from your career, right? Which is terrible. 42%, you're looking at, guys like a Mitchell Robinson, right? Just can never figure those out. And that's something that the Celtics probably don't want on their team if they don't need to, right? Speaking of that, right, maybe Mitchell Robinson will be a good option for the Celtics to go for this offseason because they need a center, and I think he's a free agent, and we'll see if the Knicks re-sign him, but I think he could be a great option. That being said, I'm going to wrap it up here. We're going to be live or have a episode coming out if any breaking news happens whatsoever. As for our scheduled content, we'll do some, preseason stuff, some looks around the NBA throughout the next couple of weeks. At the moment, I can't think of anything. Obviously, Summer League starting, so maybe we'll do some reactions to what goes on there. But my guess is that, there's not going to be much to talk about for the next couple of weeks until Jaylen Brown stuff. And that's always going to be circulating, but I don't think anything is going to happen for a couple of weeks. I might be totally wrong on that. He might be traded tonight as I'm speaking or tomorrow. Who knows? But, if that does happen, we will go live for these or at least come out with an episode and whatever. But, yeah, follow on social media. Check out this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you listen to your podcast. And until next time, go Celtics. Ball.